All right. So excited to be here. Please, everybody, confirm if you can hear me all right. Please confirm if you can hear me okay. Please confirm if you can hear me all right. So good to have everybody here. What are we, like 150 odd people here? That is amazing. Oh my God, that's 187 people. That poll in the chat here, which asks you, what kind of a user are you? Do you happen to use Power Query user interface mostly? Do you happen to write the M code, or do you happen to do a lot of Claude, ChatGPT kind of thing? So please do let me know about that as well. Okay, let's just take a look at where people are coming from. So we have people from Mali. That's amazing. I don't even know where that is. In Africa. Okay, nice. From the UK, good to have you. Where else are people coming from? Let's just take a look. Oh my God. From Liverpool, from Germany. So good to have you. From Toronto, from Ukraine. The chat is moving a bit too fast. From Austria. From India, from France. Hang on a second. I'm just trying to catch up with that. From Denmark, from Bangladesh, from New Zealand, from Costa Rica, from Germany, from India, okay, from Italy, from Barcelona, from Canada, from Czech Republic, from Mumbai, from New Zealand, from Trinidad, from Egypt, from Gujarat. Okay, let me just catch hold of the chat here. From Toronto, from Kolkata, from US, from Indonesia, from Switzerland. I'm going to be there soon, so I hope to meet you. From Lucknow, from South Africa, from Tanzania, from Edinburgh. Beautiful place, beautiful place. From Philippines. Okay, wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for spending your weekend and Sunday evening with me. All to learn Power Query, although it doesn't look very pretty, the Power Query, especially the M language. But thanks a lot for spending time to learn Power Query with me. There is a question here in the chat. Please let me know that what kind of a Power Query user are you? Do you happen to use Power Query user interface mostly? Do you happen to write the M code a lot? Or do you happen to Claude or ChatGPT your way through solving problems? What kind of a user are you? So let's just take a look at the votes. We have about 240 votes, and most of you happen to, like 67% of you happen to use the user interface mostly. And that's actually a good thing for me, because I'm actually going to talk about the structural aspects of the M language and how can you get started with the M language. This is going to be a fun session. In the start of the session, I'm going to lay the foundations of learning the M language. What are the most important ingredients to learn the M language? I'll also talk about a few mistakes that people end up making, which you should not. And then I'll talk about a few interesting examples, and then we will close the session. So probably this session is going to be about 45-ish minutes, and then we will, have Q&A and little chat in the end, whatsoever you'd like to speak about. Cool. All right. Almost at the hour. Shall we start? Okay, thanks for buying my book. It's incredible. Thanks a lot. All right, let's just start. So I'm going to stream my screen, and let me know if you can take a look at my screen. All right. Once you give me a go ahead in the chat, I will then start the session. Give me a go ahead in the chat if you can take a look at my screen. All right. There is what is it? A query with a couple of, not even one step, just says some sales data in here. So if you can take a look at my screen, all right, please let me know, and then we can proceed. All right, cool. Okay. So, especially for the people who work with the user interface of Power Query, it is not hard to imagine that you're going to probably click a button somewhere up on the top, and that is going to generate some or the other step, and that's what you have been working with. A lot of people don't even have the formula bar activated, which actually shows you the formula for the current step that you have done. By the way, if you want to activate the formula bar, Currently, it might just come pre-activated. I don't know about that, but here is a way to activate the formula bar in case that is not activated. Nonetheless, this formula that you see up on the top is the M language and gives you way more capabilities than the buttons which are there up on the top, right? These buttons are selectively placed by Microsoft to get you to solve most of the problems, but the last 20% of the problems are like way too difficult to be able to solve by the user interface, or you'll have to do a I don't know, like a mix of a lot of operations, and your query becomes long and slow and all of that. And you can solve that very conveniently by just a few steps if you happen to learn the M language. Now, if you actually go ahead and take a look at in the View tab, you happen to see something called as the Advanced Editor. And the Advanced Editor is the place where you happen to take a look at the code for all of the steps that you have done in Power Query. Not just the current step, which is where you can take a look at it in the formula bar, but in case you want to take a look at the code for all of the steps, you can see that in the Advanced Editor. It's not a very pretty scene, although if you just maybe click right here, this is how it shows up. It doesn't look quite pretty, but that is unfortunately, whatever it is the M language. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay some foundations of the M language, that how do you happen to read the M language? What exactly is this? What are the basic principles of understanding what's going on in the M language? So when you start, if you take a look at on the left hand side, you're going to see that we have the first step as the source step and the last step as the pivoted category step right here. Now, all of these steps, which is source, change type, remove duplicates, all of these steps are right here, although they are not as readable as you would have it in the user interface, because in case you have a space in between, so for example, transformed region has got a space in between, Power Query tends to write that something like that. So you'd have like a hash sign or a pound sign, whatever you'd like to call it, and then you'd have the two quotation marks in between. So anytime you have a special character, be it a space or anything, Power Query just adds that thing at the start, right? Not so pretty, but that's what Power Query does. Again, the same thing with the change type as well. Now, the important thing to understand in this particular screen that you're taking a look at is that all of the steps that you have it, that you could also see it in the user interface, they are kind of wrapped between the let statement and the in statement in Power Query. That's how you kind of begin your query. So you start with the let and you start writing your steps or whatever data cleaning operations you want to do. Then you write your in statement, and then typically, if you're using the user interface of Power Query, the last step is going to be returned right here. And that's how the query is written. Now, you don't realize that because you don't write the query. You mostly click the buttons and the query gets automatically generated. But at the back, this is what is happening. So you have the let and the in, the two keywords that initiate the steps, somewhat like variables. And then in between, you write all of the things. Now, you're going to see that the steps actually kind of fall into one another. So I'll show that what that means. So for example, in the source step, I'm getting some sales data. Now, that source step is then going to the change type step. So if you just take a look, this source is now going to the change type step. And for every single column there is, it is applying a data type. So the order ID is marked as like an integer. The date has been marked as a date. The region has been marked as a text, so on and so forth. And then the change type then moves to the next step and it does more work. Then remove duplicates moves to the next step and it does more work. And then filtered rows moves to the next step and it does more work, so on and so forth. So every single step, kind of when you're working with the user interface, flows through multiple steps thereafter, and then you finally have the last step revealed right here. That's the general flow of what Power Query looks like. Also, additionally, if I just open up the Advanced Editor once again, you're going to see that every single step is going to have a comma in the end. So you will have a comma in the end, a comma in the end. There is going to be a comma in the end here as well. So a comma in the end. If I just maybe go right here, you can see that there's a comma in the end and a comma in the end of every single step, but it is not going to be in the last step, which is where you're closing your query. So on the last step, you're not going to have a comma, but every single step is going to end up with a comma. That's the basic syntactical requirement of working with the M language. Now, you don't really have to worry about all of this in case you're not working with the advanced editor. You can just kind of work your way through the formula bar or through the clicking of the buttons, and you'll be good with that. But since you and I will be writing some bit of code today, so this is a thing that you'll have to keep in mind. All right. Mostly, you don't really have to worry about adding a comma or adding a hash and pound sign and the inverted commas. When you're working in the formula bar, you can just make sure that your formula is okay, and then you're kind of good to go, and that's pretty much it. And then your formula is going to just work all right. So, but that's how the Power Query's M language is. All right. Now, I cannot imagine to tell you that how many people end up asking me this question here whenever I go and talk in a summit, or whenever I do a training session, or whenever I'm doing a session for Goodly Insider. People end up asking me this question, that how do I get better at the M language? So step number one, obviously you have to understand the basics that I just spoke to you about, and literally they are just 2 or 3 basics. And you have to understand that you have to start small. What do I mean by that? Typically speaking, I would not encourage a beginner, especially a guy who's working with the user interface of Power Query and working their way through clicking of the buttons up on the top. I would not recommend that you start with the advanced editor, which is this code block, because first of all, it is shit scary. It's very, very scary. And second of all, in case you kind of make the tiniest of the mistake, like a comma or something, and then you keep wondering where the hell is my mistake. Like, you would not be able to notice these red lines and all of that, because it's too hard for you to figure it out when you're doing it for the first time. So I would not recommend that this is a good place to start. I would also not recommend that the formula bar is a good place to start. A good place to start for you is this particular fella right here, which is nothing but the custom column, literally. So let's just take a look at one of the custom columns. And if I just go to this particular step actually, let's just go to this year month column. So there happens to be a date column. Against the date, if I go to the far right, I have added the year month column, which is nothing but the extraction of the month and the year of the date. Now let's just say I'm sure that you already know how to create this column, because a lot of you are already creating custom columns. So if you just go right here, you have the custom column right here. And if you click on this particular custom column box, what you're going to get is nothing but this little box right here. And in this box, you can end up writing the code, whatever code that you would like to write. This is a very safe space to kind of start. I'll show you why. So for example, you're writing date.toText function, and you write the date input, which is the nothing but the column, and then you write what format do you want. Let's just say that you kind of make a mistake. You kind of forget to close the quotation mark. You kind of make a mistake, and you, like, right now it's not even allowing me. So perhaps, I don't know, let me just do something. Okay. It's not even allowing me, like the OK gets grayed out, but so what do I do? I'm just going to say, hey, I'm just going to say +0. All right. And I'm going to click on OK. Now, if you now take a look at it, this is a very manageable situation for a lot of people working with the user interface of Power Query, because what has happened is that even though the entire column has errored out, but the errors are contained in a cell and the query doesn't break. But if you happen to write a formula, so for example, if I missed closing the bracket in the end, you're going to see that the query is going to break. And this screen is a very scary screen for a lot of people. You don't know what did you just do so that the entire query broke loose. So I would highly recommend that you don't start here in the formula bar. You don't start in the advanced editor. What you start with is nothing but the custom column box. Now I'm just going to revert back to the query that I had. This is a very, very safe space, because even if the query breaks, what you'll end up getting is errors, and the errors are going to be contained in a single cell, maybe somewhere here. And then you can probably work with that error, delete that, or do something with it, and that's going to be a fine start. After you're done with this, then you can perhaps move on to the formula bar, and then you can start writing code there. And then after you're done with that, then you can go over to the advanced editor and write the code for the entire query, not just one single step. Now, this alone is not going to help you. So what you need is a like a profound understanding of how the M language works. And what you also need is like a thumb rule. I wrote about that in my book. I'm quickly going to show you that. I hope I can just find that quickly. Here. So I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me just kind of, can you see it? Can you see it? It says, feed what Power Query eats. There's a story behind it. Oh, hang on a second. I need to do that. Where is that? All right. All right. Now I'm going to show it to you. Sorry about that. All right, here. So if you now take a look at this feed Power Query what it eats, this is actually me here. Where is it? Here. I am actually standing on the on a stage in London, and I was doing my talk on Power Query, and I was wondering that, hey, what should I say that my presentation becomes interesting? And this was literally the first slide that I came up with, and people happen to like it. And this also became a lingo, which is kind of there everywhere inside. It's like my book is riddled with this. At one point in time, you're going to get frustrated reading this line, feed what Power Query eats. I'm going to tell you what that actually means. So I'm going to switch back to my screen. Let me know if you can see it. And here is what it actually means. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a blank query. So new query, other sources in a blank query. And I'm going to start working in that. Now, when you start writing Power Query functions, so let's just say that I write a function called list.sum. I start the bracket. The list.sum function literally tells you that I want to eat a list. Not eat, but you understand. It's the argument that the list needs. So it wants you to input a list. And if you do not input a list, if you perhaps write, hey, I want to take a sum of three numbers. So 1, 2, 3. Three numbers, sum it up, press enter. It doesn't work because 1, 2, 3 is not a list. This is the most essential thing of literally any programming language, but also Power Query. So feed Power Query what it eats. So if you do not feed Power Query what it would like to eat within the function, it stops to work. So if I just now provide a list, and list is like the curly bracket. We will speak about that in just a second. So 1, 2, 3. Now you can see that it is a list. How do I know it's a list? If I happen to delete the list.sum function, and if I just happen to write equals to 1, 2, 3, and if I now commit on the formula, you're going to see that we actually get a list of three numbers. And now if I happen to write list.sum function around of the list, it is obviously going to work because Power Query's list.sim function was trying to eat a list, and you fed it a list, and obviously this is going to work just all right. Now, this is not as simple as it looks. So, for instance, there is a function called table.transform columns. Transform columns, right? And I start the bracket. You can see that it says that give me the table as a table, like whatever table that you'd like to transform. And then it asks you transformations as a list. Now, although it is asking you for a list, but at times this is a nested list object as well. We'll talk about that briefly, but it's not as simple as it looks. You'll have to probably read some documentations as well. And what you can do, here's a little trick that just came to my mind. If you would like to understand any particular function inside of Power Query, while you're writing your query, one of the easiest way to do that is that you write the function and commit the function without actually the brackets or the parentheses, and it'll actually give you all the documentation. You don't really have to go to the internet to just take a look at that. So I can now read about that particular function, table.transform columns. What does it do? It just gives you all of that thing, right? And you can also take a look at the examples. You can copy these examples and make it to use and all of that. So that's nice. So just write the function without the parentheses and then commit on the function. You're going to get the documentation of the function. That is beautiful. Cool. So the point that I'm trying to make is that whenever you're writing the M language, please make sure whatever you're putting as arguments inside of the function, they should match whatever the function is specifically asking for, If it doesn't match, your function is not going to work, and it is going to cause major frustration. Major errors is obviously one thing that you will have, but apart from the errors, it is going to cause major frustration. All right. Nonetheless, let's proceed. So we discussed how do you learn the M language. A lot of people end up asking me. Again, go from small code to big code. So end up creating two really important object structures in Power Query. These are called values. I call them objects, doesn't matter. But if you understand these two types of values, technically they're called values. I'm just going to maybe talk about it briefly. So for example, if I just happen to write one happens to be a value. Now these are called primitive values, like dates and numbers and texts and all of that. In technical language, these are called primitive values. One and a particular date or a particular number or a particular text, all of these are primitive values. And then there are structured values. Structured values are like lists. So for example, if I happen to create a list 1, 2, and 3, this is nothing but a structured value, right? That's the technical name. If you happen to read the M documentation available on Microsoft, quite boring, but also quite detailed. If you happen to read that, but you're going to have all of that over there as well. Nonetheless, these are structured values, and there are many types of structured values in Power Query. There are lists, there are records, there are tables, other things as well. There are functions. So we will talk about two of such structured values and how can they immensely help you. So one is list, the other one is records, right? Lists are quite apparent, and they are also very largely used within the M language. And also talk about the records. They're also quite powerful, right? Okay, let's just go. So I'd like to start with how do you actually create a list. Whenever you're trying to create a list, you're going to see that you create the list within the curly brackets, always in Power Query. So you start the curly bracket, you end the curly brackets, you can write as many items within that. So you can write 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, whatever you'd like to write. So if I happen to go ahead and say, hey, I want to write an alphabet there, I can do that. I want to write a formula, so 10 into 10 or 10 multiplied by 10, I can do that. And this is going to happily expand the list to all of those values. I can also, by the way, create a nested list. So for example, if you now take a look at the list, the first item is 1, the second item is 2, 3, and then we have A, and then we have a calculation. And then in the last item, I can also create a nested list. That means there is going to be another list within this list. You can also do that. So I can start a curly bracket, and within which I can write again 1, 2, and 3. So now if you now take a look, we have a list, which is where we have individual items as whatever text values, primitive values, and then there is also a structured value within the list, which is called a list of a list. And this can be previewed, obviously, and you'll have lists right here. So you can do such things, but I was just talking about that how do you create a list? Simple formula, just kind of do the curly bracket and the curly bracket in the end, and that's how you create a list. Point being, not always you're going to be creating a list manually. So it's less of a chance that you'll end up creating a list like that. Like at times it's all right, but mostly you will be manipulating objects, extracting objects, and then working with them as a list. I'll show you an example. So if I happen to go ahead in one of the queries, let me just actually refer to, let me just go here and zoom out a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and reference this particular query, which is query, and I'm just going to call this as my list test. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and reference this particular query. Let's just create a new step, and that's a custom step. I'm going to call this as my reference, and I'm going to call this query, which is nothing but query right here. So I'm just going to maybe go ahead and say query, press enter, and I have the entire query right here. Now in this particular query, perhaps what I want to do is I want to extract the regions, right? As many regions there are. So I want to extract east, I want to extract north, south, and west, and unique regions only. So technically what I'm trying to do is, here is my table, which is nothing but the query. And from this query, I'm trying to extract one particular column. And the way to do that is that you write the name of the table, and then you use the square bracket, and then you write the name of the column that you would like to extract. A lot of people also ask me, hey, how do you decide what is going to be the bracket? Like, how do you know for sure that you're going to use a square bracket, and how do I even remember such things? Like, so hard. So the way to do that is that there is a very easy method to be able to remember what bracket that you're going to use. So for instance, if you have a table, and if in the table you want to move right, so I want to move from the region column to the auto count column to the electronics column to the furniture column, I want to go right in the table. Whenever I want to navigate right, that means I want to navigate towards the columns, I will always use the square brackets. That's the thing. So if you want to go right, use the square bracket. And going right simply means choosing one of the columns. That's what going right means. If you actually want to go down in the table, that means you want to go to the first row or the second row or the third row or the fourth row, whatever that is, you are going to write the row number in the curly brackets. We will discuss that in just a second, but that's generally a good way to remember it. You want to go right, square bracket, you want to go down, curly bracket. All right, cool. So let's just say that I was speaking about that in this table, I want to go right to the first column and extract the region column. So name of the table, or the reference of the table, not the name, but the reference of the table, square bracket, and then the region, press enter. And what we get is nothing but a list, right? Now, if you take a look at the list doesn't have a header. It just is a list, and it just has one single column. Although, very important, it is not a table. A table can be one columnar. A table is going to have the column name, but a list will not have any of those. If you also take a look at my Power Query window, where I can take a look at all the queries, the icon of the query has also changed, and it is now kind of showing a list, and that this one is a list. Nonetheless, let's just go. So that is my list. Now I want to remove the duplicates off of the list. So I can use this particular option, remove duplicates. This is one option, or I can write my formula here. So I'm going to say list dot unique. No, hang on, sorry. List dot distinct. Start the bracket. So list dot distinct, you can see that it's trying to eat. List dot distinct. It's trying to eat a list. It's trying to ask for a list. Hey, give me a list. This, whatever formula is this is actually returning you a list. So if you feed the formula in the first part here, it's going to work, right? So I just close the bracket, press enter. And this is going to give you the unique regions only: east, north, south, and the west. Now, at the moment, what we have done is we have gone to this particular query, which is nothing but the query, and then we extracted the region, and then we removed the duplicates off of it. This is not a hard-coded list. This is a dynamic list. And similarly, you can literally work with lists in multiple objects. The other thing that I want to talk about, just a second. The other thing that I want to talk about is that when you're taking a look at the advanced editor, can you identify a list? Let's just take a look. So I'm going to go over to my query, which has a bunch of steps in here. So if I just maybe zoom out, you can see that I have a bunch of steps in here, all of these steps. And I want to figure out if any of these steps is using a list, like just to be able to visually figure it out. So I'm going to go over to the View tab. In the View tab, I'll click on the Advanced Editor. And in the Advanced Editor, if I happen to zoom in, what I intend to look for is curly brackets. Now note that I just said curly brackets can be used in two different places: to navigate down in a table and to kind of build a list. So we are looking for curly brackets that have multiple items within that. So if you now take a look at the first step itself, which is the change type, you can see that here there is a list. And the list has got two items. The first one is the name of the column, hard-coded, and the data type. Then there is another thing. There's a column name and a data type, column name and a data type, so on and so forth. And surprisingly, if you look very carefully, you're going to see that this list, which is the first list, the second list, the third list, the fourth list, and all of these lists are then further packed into a list right here. You can see that there's a list right here. For fun stuff, what I can do, I don't know if that will work or not, but for fun stuff, what I can do is I can actually copy this, list of a list. So you have the outer list and you have the inside list. I can just press Control C on that code. Just go right here. go right here, Control C on that. So just copying the list part only. And if I just click on cancel, and if I just go to my list test right here, and I make a new step, and I paste that piece of code right here, you can see that what I copied the second part of the formula and I pasted it here. And what I got is a list and multiple sublists inside. If I happen to peek inside any of this list, what I'm going to see is the name of the column and the type applied. Although it's not being applied to any particular column because all of that is hard coded. But it's fun stuff to kind of pull around in the formulas and poke your way and to understand how the M language is working. Nonetheless, I was talking about how do you identify a list. So if I just go back on the View tab, Advanced Editor once again, all of this is nothing but list. If you just take a look, this is nothing but a list right here. This one entirely is a list. This one is a list of a list. There are 2 curly brackets and 2 curly brackets in the end. This one again is a nested list. This one again is a list. So lists are literally used everywhere inside of Power Query. So if there was one single object that I asked you to master to be able to, learn a lot of the M language and get, benefit from the M language, is nothing but list. And in fact, if you just take a look at my book, I don't know if you have it or not, but if you don't, you can just get it. Let me just show that to you here. Come on here. All right. So let me just quickly change the view here. Okay, cool. So now the very first chapter that I start with is working with lists inside of Power Query. And I give several examples. I talk about nested lists and things like that. So you can just kind of go through all of that. Yeah, quite practical examples in here. So going back to the lists. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about the practical application of the list. Like, where exactly would you use it? You've understood how to create it. You've understood how do you identify a list. I'd like to talk about that. How in real life would you use a list? Cool, that was my water break. Let's start. If you now take a look at the screen, I'll also share some very interesting tips and tricks along the way. If you right now take a look at the screen, you can see that I have 3 queries in here. I've got a data 1, I've got a data 2, and I've got a data 3. 3 queries in here. And these are just simple tables like ID, name, and department. Then another table. We have ID, name, and department. Nothing that complicated. And then another table. ID, name, and this time we also have one additional column called location and then department. So you can see that these tables are kind of slightly differentiated. The 2 tables are the same. Data 1 and data 2 tables are exactly the same, and data 3 table is a bit different. It has one additional column. What I'd like to be able to do is that I'd like to be able to combine the 3 tables into a single query. I'm sure you've done that a lot. Data coming from Excel, from CSVs, from whatever, and you'd like to combine the data. Let me show you how that is done. I am quite certain when you were working with Power Query, if your data came from Excel, it's very easy to fetch the data from Excel because you have a direct connector available. So right click and you have a new query and you can say file and get the data from Excel, or get the data from CSV, or get the data from folder, and you can then combine the data. But at the moment, my data is here. How do I get these 3 tables here? Now, there are 2 ways to go about it. I can go up in the formula tab and I can say data 1, data space 1. And you can see that because it has a space in between, it is writing it a bit weirdly, like the hash sign and the quotation marks. And then I can use the and symbol, and then I can say, hey, I can have data 2, and then the 2 tables are combined, one below the other. You can see that. That's one way of going about it. But what if you have the name of the table changed slightly, or you have data 4 coming in later? So will this query automatically update? The answer to that is absolutely not, because the reference of the query is hard-coded and that is not automatically going to change. What do? There are two ways of going about it. Method number one is that I'm sure everybody has heard of this particular trick in Power Query called the hash shared function, hash shared. Now what the hash shared function does is that it loads up the entire Power Query's environment, which is where you have all the formulas, all the functions, and you can take a look at any of the function. You can read the documentation about it. Take a look. So if I just write hash shared or lowercase, and if I happen to press enter, you're going to see that the Power Query's environment is going to be loaded in front of me, and I can take a look at any of the functions. So I can take a look at list.remove first n, or table.column count, or alternate rows, or insert rows, whatever function, I can take a look at it. But in this environment, in the current instance of Power Query, I not only have all of these functions, but guess what? I have all the tables which are also there on the left hand side. So I can do my magic. I can convert this into a table. Once this has been converted into a table, I can apply a filter on this particular column and keep only the values which are starting with data, data, and data. That's what I can do. That's nice. I'll tell you another way of going about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the second step. I'm going to go back to the source, and instead of writing the shared, I'm going to write the sections keyword, hash sections, sections plural. And hash sections is only going to extract not the formulas, not the functions, but only the tables and the partitions. These are nothing but partitions of the data, and it's only going to extract that. If you happen to go inside of the record, you're going to see that you will have the availability of all the tables that I have it on the left. Cool. Now, this might lead into a circularity error. Let me explain. Because this particular record has got everything, like literally everything is here. The combined query, which is the current query, is also here. That means if you happen to reference this, it cannot self-reference it. So this might just lead into an error. So what you'll have to do is, while you're working with this, you'll have to exclude the current query out and then start to work with that. Nonetheless, I'm just going to be using the sections approach. You can also use the shared approach. So hash sections, but the hash sections, we'll have to go inside of the record to be able to get all of this. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to go inside the record. And I'll say this is going to be section 1. Section 1 is the name of the column. And this opens up all the tables. And then I can just do the very same thing that I did it at the back, which is convert this into a table. And you now have converted this into a table. The next thing that I would like to do is apply a filter to the name column. So I'll click right here. I'll say that I want to apply a text filter. And I'll say this, what is that? This text filter, this is going to be begins with the word data. I'll click on OK. And I have all the 3 tables dynamically loaded right here. Now, there's one thing that I'd like to point out, which is a trick that you can take it away, is that whenever you're applying a filter and you're using this function contains or starts with or ends with these kind of functions inside of Power Query, the Power Query's user interface is very strict. Tomorrow, if you happen to write the D small for data, like the D lowercase, it's not going to pick up any of the queries because it was not able to find any of the queries that began with the small d or the lowercase d. That's why your table was empty. What you do in such a case is that you can make this case agnostic. How? This particular function, text.starts with, has this additional parameter, which is comparer function. Like, how would you like to compare? And all that I can say is that please ignore the data types or ignore the case sensitivity, not the data types. So how do you say all of that? So you can say ordinal ignore case, comparer dot ordinal ignore case. That's the input. Press enter and this still works. So no matter your data was caps, lower, A is capital, doesn't matter. It is going to ignore the case and then keep all the values. Super helpful whenever you're doing text-based transformations and you want to kind of rule out the case sensitivity in that scenario. This works in a couple of functions. So text.starts with, contains, text.ends with, and things like that. If you want to take a look at where does it work, just take a look at perhaps the text-based functions and take a look at does it give you the comparer argument in the end or not. If it does, you can just use that. Cool. Now that I have all the tables, I only want to work with the value function here. So what I can do is I can right click, I can right click on this particular column. I can say remove other columns, and I'm just left with the three tables right here, which is my table 1, my table 2, and my table 3, which has got 4 columns, not 3 columns. Generally, a lot of people's, and if you happen to just click on OK for the moment, so ID, name, and department, click on OK, you will have all the columns loaded from all the 3 tables, sure enough. But the problem is, there are 2 problems. First of all, you haven't received the value of the 4th column here, which was the location, which was a newly added column, and you would like to see that perhaps. The second problem is that just in case the names of the columns change, although that's not a good thing, but just in case the names of the columns change, you literally, when you expanded the 3 tables, you hard-coded the values of the 3 columns. That means you said that I'd like to expand the ID column, the name column, and the department column. Should the column names change, add, edit, delete, this is not going to work, and your query is going to tank and it's going to break. The good news is that we have a list. So that means all the names of the columns, which is ID, which are hard-coded, ID, name, and department, are in a list. So what we can do is we can somehow figure out that how can I have these columns not written manually inside of the query? How can I have them driven through a formula that feeds into this particular query? That's going to be nice. So what I can do is, for the moment, I can actually go ahead and I can copy this particular step and open up a notepad so that I can explain what is going on in here. So let me just zoom in a bit. Format this a little bit, format this a little bit, format this a little bit, and format this a little bit. Cool. All right. Let's keep this on the side. We'll come back to this formula in just a second, right? Let's just keep this on the side. Now, I'm going to delete this particular step. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this particular 3 tables. Now, what I would like to do, let's say I'd like to extract all the names of the columns from the 3 queries, from the 3 tables, right? So what I can do is I can go ahead and what do I do? I can go ahead and I can say something like a new step right here. And I can say that combine, let's just say all columns, all calls. That's my name, the query. For the moment, I'm going to use a function called table.combine. Now, if you take a look at the table.combine function, it says that I'm ready to combine the tables. Give me as many tables as you would want, but those tables need to be in the form of a list. That means if you just feed me tables like that, and these tables are not in the form of a list. By the way, right now they're not in the form of a list because you can see that the icon here is a table. It's not a list. And if you just feed this particular thing, it's actually going to give you an error. It's not going to work out because it says that, hey, we could not convert the table into a list. So what do we do? So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and convert this particular column into a list. So I'm going to say that remove other columns is the name of the previous step right here. And from the remove other columns, I want to extract one of the columns called the value column. So I'll just put in the square bracket. Again, I'm trying to move right in the table, therefore the square bracket. And now this becomes, so if I just maybe go ahead and delete that part real quick, Control X and delete that part real quick. You can see that now we have a list like Power Query wanted to eat, and we have 3 tables within that, and we can just combine the data off of the 3 tables. Nice. And now because we have provided the meal like Power Query likes to eat it, it's going to work beautifully. So I can just say, hey, table.combine, start the bracket, close the bracket in the end, press enter, and it's going to beautifully combine all the tables that you have. Sure enough, the location column comes in automatically. A little drawback, just a little drawback is that, let's say, for example, in this particular table right here, we had, let's say, 1 additional column. So I'm just going to maybe create 1 more column and call this column as random. And I will just write a value 1. It doesn't matter. So you can see that we have a random column 1. And in the next step, we lose that random column because all that we have done is we have literally combined the data off of the 3 tables, like literally combined the data. So we lose the column right here. We did not expand the tables. If you expand the tables, the tables get expanded here, here, and here, and you have the ability to retain the current columns. But since I just combined the tables, all I can see is the data of the 3 tables in the next step, and the random column is gone. But I'd like to have that. So what I'd like to do is, I'd like to use the expanded step, but for the moment, I don't really want to combine the tables. I want to get the names of the columns of the tables. So I can say that once the table has combined the columns of all the tables, then I can just fetch the names of the columns. So table.column names. Oops. Table.column names, start the bracket, and table.column names function asks you, hey, give me a table to work with, and this entire thing is a table. And if you close the bracket in the end, what you're going to get is nothing but the names of the columns. So if I press enter, you get the names of the columns, and these are all the columns. You can see that right now I've been able to write a formula that gives me all the names of the columns that were initially hard-coded. If I go back to my formula right here, you can see that in this particular formula, the names of the columns are hard-coded. But this particular formula right here gives me the names of the column as a list, but they are not hard-coded. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, how do we have this formula plugged back into our query? Let's just copy this particular formula. Remember that we copied the formula from the formula bar, so we'll have to stick that formula again in the formula bar. So Control C on that. I can make a new step. I can delete everything, and I can just paste my formula, which is the table.expand table column. Now, the first part of the formula says that, hey, which table would you like to expand? So I would like to expand which table? I'd like to expand the table, which is where I have the random column as well. That's the table that I'd like to expand. And which column I would like to expand? I would like to expand the value column. So let's just take a look. So the reference of the table that I'd like to expand is going to be not removed other columns, which is this one. So I'd not want to expand this one now. I'd like to expand this one, which is added custom. So let's just go ahead and reference that. So if I just go ahead and say, hey, I want to expand added custom in here. So hash added custom. The column that I'd like to expand is again the value column, and that is what is written in the formula bar. So value column, cool. And this part, which is the hard-coded part, is something that I'd like to automate now, which is nothing but a list, and we have already done the work for that. And this list, rather than actually being hard-coded, is actually going to be referring to this particular step, which is all columns. Beautiful. So I can just go in the formula, which is expanded. I can just also rename this one as expanded. And I can just say, hey, this one is going to be all calls. Now you're wondering that when I was taking a look at the formula, why was the list duplicated? Like you have ID, name, and department, and you again have ID, name, and department. Why would you do that? The first list, if you take a look, is nothing but the list of columns to be expanded. So these are to be expanded columns. The next list, which is the second one, is rename if needed. And this is not mandatory. The second list is not mandatory. You can just delete it if you don't really want to rename the list. So ID is going to be renamed as ID, name is going to be renamed as name, department is going to be renamed as department. So it doesn't make sense at the moment. So this part of the formula I can get rid of. I can remove the last comma because we just have 3 parts of the formula, and we are beautiful. We are done. We have the ID column, we have the name column, we have the department column, the location column, which only belongs to the last table. So good enough. And we have the random column as well. Should any of the columns be added or deleted in any of the 3 tables, it's automatically going to add that. So if I just go ahead and in data number 2, I add one more column. So I just say, hey, I want to add a random column and I want to write the value 100 in that particular column. Click on OK. Now in table number 2, you don't have 3 columns, you have 4 columns. In table number 3, which is data 3, you again have 4 columns. In data 1, you have just 3 columns. So if you now take a look at the combined table, it's actually going to have all the columns in here. So let's just take a look. So we have ID, we have name, department, location. We have the random column. It did not work. Let's just take a look at what happened, why it did not work. So let's just try to do a refresh. Okay, cool. So it has added the random column in here. And once the expanded step happens, okay, cool. So the thing is that I was saying random quite often. So the random column already was existing in the query. So, and then we have the original random column that we added right here. Quite a lot of random columns. Nonetheless, that is the power of lists. So we created a list. You just have to make sure one way, really good way of understanding that what are the opportunities for you to make things dynamic is this. Number one is that whenever you're taking a look at let's just open up this particular query. Whenever you're taking a look at the query in the formula bar, whenever you see red text, especially the red text inside of the curly brackets, there is a chance that you can probably automate that. Now, I would not recommend that you start automating the change type step, but nonetheless, like things like these, region and category, you can automate that. Automate as in you can make the list dynamic, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of opportunity. Whenever you see red, that's the sign that you can probably start to think about that. How can I just make this list more dynamic? Cool. That was the list. I hope we are still cruising. I haven't been able to take a look at the chat so far, but cool. Okay. Nobody has complained that my screen was off or my voice was not audible. So that's nice. Awesome. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna keep cruising. So the next thing that I want to talk about is records. And records are pretty interesting actually. And I'm going to show you two examples of records. First, I'm going to talk about what exactly is a record. Record simply means, if I have to explain it to a naive person who happens to just not know Power Query that much, I would say record is nothing but a row of a table. That's what I would say. So this happens to be the first record, second record, third record, fourth record, so on and so forth. And that's what records would mean. Simple as that. There is a very interesting thing about records is that records always come in pairs. You would just not have the value of the row of the table. You're also going to have the headers of the table. Let me explain what do I mean by that. So when I'm just clicking on the second row item here, I am actually peeking and I'm seeing the second record. Now, note that you just don't see the values. You don't see phone and 800 and 950 and 1100. You don't see these values, but you also get to see that phone belongs to a column named product. So the column name also appears. 800 belongs to a month named January. So the column name also appears. Records always come in pairs. So you'll have two things, the name of the column, and you'll have the value of that particular column, and that is going to be a record. Record always has one single row of data. It can have multiple columns. Surprisingly, for some reason, I don't know what, but some reason Power Query shows the records as vertical. You would expect to see a record as a line item laid down horizontal, but it shows you vertical. I don't know for what reason, but nonetheless, that's how the record is. It's still one row of the table. It has the values of that particular row, but it also has the name of the column. Remember, this record is going to be two things. Now you can create records in a square bracket. So if I just maybe go ahead and create a blank query real quick. So other sources and a blank query. And if I call this as my record test, so record test, you can create a record by two methods. So not two methods, but by a curly bracket. So you can start a curly bracket. Damn it. Sorry. You can start a square bracket. And within the square bracket, you can write the name of the column. Interestingly, when you're creating the names of the columns, even if they have a space, you're not supposed to write them in any special way. So for example, if I happen to write a column name as full name, now full name is the name of the column, right? So imagine a record like this, which is where the name of the column is full name. And even if it has a space here, I'm not supposed to write anything within that. And now I can define the value of that. Let's just say that I'm creating a record with two columns, so full name, and perhaps I'm writing the city here, which is where I live at the moment. And I'm just going to create these two columns and then the values of the two columns. So since records come in pairs, so the first value that I declare is the name of the column. And I'll say, hey, my full name is Chandeep Chabra. That is just one column of a single record. I put in the comma, and then I say, hey, again, my city is going to be, let's say, Gurgaon. So Gurgaon, right? And just like you would expect, you can create more sophisticated things as well. So I can just call this as, let's say, favorite things. I can say that I'd like to sleep a lot. I'd like to read as well. And maybe I'd like to lift. And of course, I'd like to do M as well. So M, right? So, and now what I've been able to do is that as favorite things, I have created a list of things which actually go in here. So we have created like a nested object or nested value. So inside of one of the columns of the record, we have a list as well. And you can also create another record here. You can create another table here. This actually makes things more complicated, but you get the idea. All right, so just one thing, in case there happens to be any special character. So for some reason, if you happen to write city dot, now dot is a special character. And if you now happen to press enter, this is not going to work because it gives you a syntactical error. In such scenarios, you will have to do that weird thing of quotation mark. What was that? Like this and like, no, sorry, this and this. No, it was the other way around. Sorry about that. It was like this. All right. That you will have to do to kind of make it work. And that special character ends up working like that. Cool. So that is a quick rundown of what a record is. The important thing to keep in mind is that it's a single row of the table. It appears vertically and it comes in pairs. So that means you have the name of the column and you have the value of the column. Simple as that. Now, I'm going to show you what can you do with a record. All right. So 2 examples real quick. The first example that I'd like to talk about is that a lot of times you're going to have pivoted data. That means that if I now take a look at the number 600, for me to be able to understand 600, I have to look in 2 directions. I have to look up and figure out what month is that. That's the month of January. I have to look left and take a look at what product is that, and that's the tablet product. So whenever the data is pivoted, like up and left, and you're looking in multiple directions to be able to make sense of the data is typically pivoted or cross-tabulated, if you can call it the other way. But I don't really want to unpivot the data. What I'd like to be able to do is, in the current structure, in the very structure that the data is at the moment, I want to add a totals column right here. Right here, I just want to add a totals column. Dynamic enough that tomorrow these months change, or I have a month of April added later, the total should also change. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot do that using manipulating the tables in such a way, using the UI, clicking the buttons and then getting the totals. You can absolutely do that, but records make it ridiculously simple to do that. I'm not suggesting that you should do this, but I'm just kind of showing you the power of records. So add column, I'm going to make a custom column and I am going to call this column as my total. Now, what should I write here? Like, what should I write? Think about it. What should I write that I am able to take a look at the entire value, like all of the values? I mean, technically, I just want 1200, 1500 and 1800, but for now, I want to take a look at all of the values which are there in the first row. So I'm going to go ahead and write an underscore here. Now you're going to ask me, hey, how did you know underscore and all of that? For that, I'd highly recommend that you please read my book or take a look at my courses or take a look at my video on underscores. But for now, essentially, I'm writing a shorthand and I'm telling Power Query, hey, Power Query, when you make a column and you name the column as total, so when you make the total column, I am writing the underscore, and underscore is like the variable that I'm using to get everything in the first row of the table, like get me everything there is. That's the meaning, rough meaning of underscore right now. So if I happen to click on OK, this makes a column called total. And because I'm working with the rows of data, it gives me the record. And if I peek inside of the record, you'll not be surprised that I have the product, the name of the column, and the value of the column, the name of the column, and the value of the column, which is right here, the name of the column, which is right here, and the value of the column, which is right here, so on and so forth. So successfully, I've been able to at least capture the values that I wanted without hard coding them. I could also written Jan plus Feb plus March, but that would have been a manual thing. So now I'm still in a problem. I still haven't been able to get the total. So what do I do? For now, I'm actually trying to solve two problems. Problem number one is that I don't want to have the names of the columns. They are useless to me because I can't total them. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that I don't even want the first column here. Like, I just want this. I just want this. How do I get this? If you recall, just a while ago when we were doing the list test, and if you recall, when I created a list like this, we saw that a list does not have column headers. It is just called a list with the values of the list. So if I just go to my records query right here, and if I say that, hey, if I tend to convert the record into a list, the one thing that I'm going to get rid of is nothing but the headers of the columns. So I can do that. So I can just go into my formula bar and I can say the underscore gives me a record. Now let me just manipulate the record in such a way that it converts into a list so that I'm able to get rid of the headers. So I can say something like records.toList, start the bracket and close the bracket in the end. Now, again, feed what Power Query eats. Once again, so record.toList, start the bracket. It asks you for a record. Underscore meant a record. So I'm feeding what Power Query is trying to eat, and I could have verified that. So underscore in here, close the bracket, and good to go, and click on OK. Now that record transforms itself into a list, and list, because does not have column headers, I'm left with the values only, but still I would like to get rid of the first value here. So I can use a very simplistic function and I can say, hey, why don't you just skip the first item of the list? So list.skip happens to be the function. List.skip asks you for two inputs technically. The first input is what's your list? So here is my list. This formula gives me a list. And the second input is how many items would you like to skip? So I can write in a 1 here and I can close the bracket, or I can write nothing in here and I can still close the bracket. If you write nothing in here, it automatically skips the first item. So to make the formula shorter, I can just not write anything. I can also write 1. Nonetheless, I'm clicking on OK. I still get a list, but now relevant to what I need, 3 values. I can just wrap that around in my final function, which is please sum this list. So list.sum, input is a list. That's what the function wants to eat. Good to go. And that is nothing but your sum. Beautiful. That works. Now, let's say, for example, I add a new column and I insert the column in between. I'm going to call this column as April, and I just randomly write 100 here everywhere. It doesn't matter. So we 100. Now we would like to sum 4 columns in here. If I just go in right here, you can see that now the formula has updated to 4600. We can also test that out. So if I just maybe don't sum the values for just a quick second, and if I just happen to delete the list.sum function, click on OK, I should be seeing 4 values and not 3. So if I just go take a look, you can see 4 values, and sure enough, we can now sum those 4 values. So list.sum, I'm writing that in the formula bar, close the bracket, and we're good to go. And that is nothing but my sum. So pretty damn easy, just like one single step to sum it all. We just used the records approach to be able to do it. Another thing, which is a very, very common thing, and I found that while just fiddling around with Power Query, was that when you're a UI person and you're trying to work with the user interface of Power Query, you are many a times going to come across this situation where you'd like to extract one of the intermediary steps of the query. let me show it to you. It's quite interesting. It's very interesting. So take a look at this. We have a lot of steps in here, and perhaps I want to be able to extract filtered rows. So there are a lot of steps in here. I want to extract one of the intermediary steps, not any one of the steps. I want to extract the intermediary step. What generally happens is that I'm going to right click and say, I want to make a new query. Other source is a blank query. I'm going to call this as my record test2. What generally happens is that if I happen to say equals to query, and if I reference this query right here, what step do you think it's going to show up on the screen? The step that shows up on the screen is obviously the last step, which is this particular step. And this step, which is the result of the entire query. So if you take a look at the advanced editor, pivoted category is the step, and that's the last step. And the last step is the step that is now taken to any of the query that references query 1 or query. Now, how do I actually go ahead and not use this one, but happen to use some other, like one of the intermediary steps? How can I do that? Now, what we can do is we can convert the entire query into a record. And it's actually there in my book, but you're going to get slightly disappointed once this happens, because you're not going to pretty much like the solution. And the solution for that is in my book, which I will not reveal, but you should take a look at it. So what I can do is I can go over to the View tab. I can go over to the Advanced Editor. If you recall what I just said about records, it's actually going to apply in here. Records come in pairs. They have two things. One is the name of the column and the value of the column, right? So imagine I delete the let part and I delete the in part and everything after that. If you think about it, this structure is pretty much like a record. Even though there are gigantic formulas written here, I'm not concerned. This looks like a record. That means you have the name of the column, the value of the column, the name of the column, the value of the column. Hey, the value of the column could be a formula. I don't have a problem with that. Name of the column, value of the column, so on and so forth. If I happen to go ahead and start the square bracket here, and I happen to close my square bracket here, so I have technically created a record. So that's my first step as a record, my second step as a record. Technically speaking, I mean, if you don't know it already, the let and the in functions are nothing but easier way of presenting records as variables only. So it's just one and the same thing. Nonetheless, we've created a record. So this is my first column in the record, my second column, my third column, my fourth column, my fifth column, so on and so forth. Take a look at what's going to happen. I'm going to click on done, and the entire query and the result of the query is like a record. And when I actually go to record test number 2, I can pick up any particular step. So I can put in the square bracket and I can say that I want to pick up this particular step, which is filtered rows, and I'm good to go. That's it. Now, you may be liking it, but if you just think about it for just a quick second, what we have done is we have literally disrupted our query that was loading up in our model. Like pivoted category was being loaded after the in statement, which it can't because we have converted the entire thing into a record. Now, you might want to create another query that references the last step and load that query in the model, because this is now your reference query. You can reference any of the steps, but I know you don't like it. So there are solutions of this on the YouTube videos. There's a solution of this in the book, but I would encourage you to please buy my book. You're going to find the solution there. And to the extent, make it completely dynamic as well. Like, and you can extract any step. Cool. We've spoken about lists. We've spoken about records. What I'd like to speak about as the last thing is manipulation of the objects. So here is what I'd like to speak about. All right. When you're doing advanced operations inside of Power Query, a lot of times you're going to be manipulating objects or manipulating values or nesting values. And I'll give you the examples of both of them. Let's just take a look at the table right now. So At the moment, we have a table, and the table is a table inside of a list. And that is called nesting. So you have a wrapper, like a list wrapper, and within that you have a table. Now, this could be a table, this could be a single value, it could be anything. Now you have a list, and within the list you have a table. If you recall, just a while ago, we happened to use a function called table.combine, and the table.combine was exactly asking this, that I need multiple tables, but those tables must be wrapped inside of a list. So here is a list, and there are right now just one. You can have as many tables as you would want, and it will happily combine all of those tables. A lot of times after you have graduated from learning the list objects and the record objects and the record values and all of that, you will soon be coming across functions that are a bit peculiar, and they are going to be wanting you to do these wrapper things, like wrap the table inside of a list or wrap the table in a record and all of that. So this helps a lot. Nesting is just like putting an object inside of another object. We've learned that quite a few times. We have done that for a list, we've done that for a record, but here is another example of that. So I'm just going to get rid of that. That was the example of nesting, and I've covered that in my book as well. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is transformation. So let's just name this particular step as nesting so that you can have this file once I end the stream. And I would like to now talk about transformation. Transformation. Nesting simply means that the object has not changed. The object is still the same. It's still a table. It's just having a wrapper around it, like a list around it. In transformation, you change the object into another object. Show you an example. So let's just say that I'm referring to the source step. And this one is slightly tricky to understand, but it's going to be super helpful. So source is nothing but the table. Now what I'd like to be doing is that I want to transform the table into completely different object altogether. So for example, what I'd like to do is I would like to transform the table into a list structure. But the table has got 3 columns and list has just got 1 column. So imagine how this is going to be. There are 2 ways of doing that. If I want to transform the table into a list structure, then you will have a list, and the first column becomes a list. The second column becomes a list, and the third column also becomes a list. This is one way of transformation, and you can do that. I'll show you. Or there could be another way of transformation. So let's just say that I make a list, and the first row becomes a list. So this becomes a list. Then the second row becomes a list, and the third row becomes a list, so on and so forth. So you have 5 rows in the list. Both of them are possible. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that a lot of times you will be coming across scenarios where you are literally transforming the shape and the size of the object to convert it into another object altogether. You right now be asking, hey, how useful is that? Or where can I use it? I will just tell you in just a second, but let's just learn the transformation. So if I just go ahead and say a formula like that, there are multiple formulas like this. So I'll say, hey, table.toColumns. So what table.toColumns functions does is that it picks up every single column and it converts that into a list, no matter how many columns you have. You don't have to tell which column. It will take all the columns, put it into a list. If I right now close the bracket in the end, you can see that this is my outer list, and that's my first column, that's my second column, and that's my third column. That's one way of going about it. I can make another step. I can call this as my transformation 2, and I can again reference it back to the source step. So source. This time, what I'd like to do is that I'd like to be able to transform the table and make the list like this. So you'll have a list, but the first row is a list, then the second row is a list, and the third row is the list, so on and so forth. Rather than actually having the columns as list, I would like to have rows as list. Another ways of transformation. So I can go ahead and say something like table dot, two rows. Yeah, table.toRows, press enter. And now you can see that the first row has become a list. So you can see all the 3 values in here. 1, Alice and sales. And then this is number 2, Bob and marketing, and so on and so forth. These are now 5 row values, 5 records have become a list. I'm sure at this stage you're asking, okay, fine, this is just like a complex operation with no use whatsoever. Let me show you one of the use of that. This is my last example. I'll not bore you after this, and we'll be done after that. Let's just say I went to a PDF reader or someplace and I copied this particular table. And the table is riddled with random null values. Like there happens to be a null here. If I happen to go ahead and say, hey, I want to remove empty or remove the null, let's just say remove empty, it actually eats into the good value. So a null removed here means that you're losing out on product ID 2 and you're losing out on the price of 800. So you don't really want to have that. But if you just do that, you have lost a couple of null values. If you remove the null from here, that means you've lost these two. If you apply the null here, that means you've lost these two, so on and so forth. Now, what I'd like to do is that I'd like to be able to make the query such that when I go ahead and remove the nulls, I don't remove the good values of the table. If you just take a look at the construct of the table, it looks something like this. So the first row of the table is technically this row of the table. Good. Then the second row of the table is this. So 102, tablet, and 800. So it's like this. Remove the nulls from here. And then this is the third row of the table. So 103, monitor, and 400. Then 104, desk, and 350. And then 105, lamp, and 150. And so on and so forth. So you get the idea. But the problem is that I can't remove the nulls in a typical way, and you're left with, you don't know what to do. So what I can do is I can remove the filtered rows step, which I did, and I can convert all the 3 columns into a list. So I can say something like, hey, let me go ahead and explain the logic to you first before I do the operation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first column, extract it, treat it individually, and remove the nulls from here without affecting this column and affecting this column. So I'll remove the 2 nulls from here. Then I'll take the second column, extract it, then remove the nulls individually without affecting this column and this column, so on and so forth. So I'll treat the 3 columns separately, remove the nulls, and then put it back together into a table. That's going to be fun. Although it seems like a lot of work, but it's ridiculously simple. So I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, table dot 2 columns. That's the formula that I can use to convert each of the column into a list. And I can now work with the list individually. So I press enter and I get this list. Now I can say, hey, I've got the 3 lists, which is not a table, and one list doesn't affect the other one. So now I can just go ahead and say, hey, pick up the first list, get rid of the null. Pick up the second list, get rid of the null, so on and so forth. How do I say all of that? I can just go ahead and say list.transform. So I'd like to go inside this list, and with every single sublist, I'd like to remove the nulls. So list.transform. Here is my list, which is the outer list, within which I want to remove the nulls. So remove nulls, list.remove nulls, close the bracket and press enter. And now I still get lists, but the only difference between the previous lists and the new lists is that every single list has got no nulls. Beautiful. The problem now is that I'm left with 3 lists. Where is my table? So I want to put it back into a table. I'm going to make a new step, and I'm going to say that whatever I just did, which was the table.2 columns to break the 3 columns into 3 lists, I'm exactly going to do the opposite of that. That means I now have 3 lists. Technically, this is column 1 of the table, this is column 2 of the table, and this is column 3 of the table. Now I want to take up the list and do the reverse, and I want to put it back into columns of the table. So the function is going to be exactly the opposite, table.from columns. So I'll say, hey, table.from columns, start the bracket, close the bracket. And if you just take a look at it, it's asking you, hey, give me multiple lists. So I don't want a single list. I want a list of a list. So you should have an outer list, and every single inside list is going to be converted into a column of the table. And I can just feed custom1, which contains this thing. So custom1 is nothing but the list of lists. Press enter. And what we have is a table. Beautiful. The only thing is that it doesn't have column headers. There are no column headers in here. So what I can do is I can go ahead and I can say, hey, there's an optional input. In case I have any column headers, I can provide the column headers in here. So I can say, hey, rather than writing it manually, I can say, why don't you pick up the table.column names from the source table, from this particular table. And whatever you have the names of the columns, you can feed it here, and that's it. It's done. All right, so those were like the basics of getting started with them. If you just want to recap real quick, we started with the structure of the M language. How do you work with that? Like the basic let in the in keywords, the commas, and all of that. I gave you two suggestions to improve your M language. Write the M language in the formula bar first, then move over to the formula bar and the advanced editor, the custom column, and then move on to the formula bar and then the advanced editor. We talked about lists, saw a couple of examples. We talked about records, saw a couple of examples. I may have disappointed you with this particular example where I converted the entire query into a record, but hey, I would not disappoint you if you just read my book. You're going to like it a lot. And then finally, we talked about manipulation of the objects. That means you don't really have to restrict yourself to just learning about lists or records. You can manipulate the objects to create more interesting objects or value types, and then you can transform them and do some crazy stuff inside of Power Query. Cool. That was the session. I am more than happy to take questions now. Also very important, before I forget, very important. By the end of the session, we are going to be announcing 5 lucky winners. And the lucky winners are going to be people who have subscribed to the opt-in form, wherein you gave your email ID and the name to appear for this particular webinar, the meetup that is happening, the thing that is happening. We are going to run the wheel by the end of this thing, and then whosoever is the lucky winner is going to get the digital copy of my Power Query book. No cost whatsoever. That's one. So 5 such people. If you by chance haven't subscribed to the email list yet, Pratik happens to be one of the moderators of the comments, or Mehdi happens to be one of the moderators of the comments. They can leave a link right now. Please put in your name and your email ID and subscribe. You might be the lucky winner tonight, and you will have the book absolutely free of cost to you. That's one. Second, during the course of the presentation, there was a secret word that appeared in the entire thing, like on the screen somewhere. And if you happen to use that word as the code, you're going to get 50% off on Goodly Insider. But I'm sure it was very apparent. But it is only applicable to 2 lucky winners. So if you did catch the word, and if you'd like to be a Goodly Insider, please use that right away. Pratik is going to drop the link where you can use that word. Please use that word as a coupon code to get 50% off on Goodly Insider. Simple as that. Now, with that said, let me answer your questions. Cool. We have a lot of questions. Okay. Happy to answer questions. If you have any, please let me know. I'll also pop your names on the screen as you ask me questions. All right. What do we have? Sorry, 3 lucky winners. My bad. Okay. Marcus says, I have learned so much from your M course and your book. Thank you so much, Marcus. Thank you so much. I have painfully learned the M language, and I'm happy that I'm able to, share that with you. So thanks a lot. Okay. Are there any shortcuts for the editor window that I would recommend? Yes, there are. I think I've done a video on that as well, and I've done a LinkedIn post on that as well. I believe if one of my team members can drop in the comment and to share that post with you, that's going to be really helpful. Okay, the next question is, how easy is it to move from Power Query to Power BI? So a lot of people don't know about this, is that Power Query is built into Excel and it's built into Power BI as well. There is very little difference between what you can do in Excel Power Query versus Power BI Power Query. I think some of the additional connectors are available. That's one additional difference, but the entire capability of the Power Query's user interface as well as the M language is also available to you in Power BI. So literally no difference. So you can any day move to Power BI as well. Okay, here's an interesting one. How can I make the query return the data faster? That means you want faster refreshes in the query. There happens to be a concept called streaming, and that affects the speed of the query. I'll explain that briefly to you. If any of the operations that you have done in the query is literally asking the data to be loaded up first, then cleaned, and then moved out, that is going to slow down your query. For example, think about transposing operations. Transposing means you have rows that you would like to convert it into columns. Unless Power Query reads all of the data, let's just say that you have 10,000 rows of data or 50,000 or a million rows of data, until and unless it reads all the 50,000 rows of data or a million rows of data, it cannot possibly convert those into columns, because columns are visible in the query. You can move left and right and you can take a look at the columns. Those are the kind of operations where you break the streaming. You are enforcing the query to do an operation to read the entire row of data and not just work with the sample. Those are the things that you should be worried about that actually slow down the query. Okay. Will the file used on the screen be available after? Of course, yeah, the file is going to be available right after. So I will upload the very file that I have worked on and make it available to you guys. So you can just take a look at everything that I have done in today. Okay, there was one interesting question that I saw. Can we use the header function to pick any row as the header? Technically, yes. Technically, you would have to extract the row and then move that to the first position and then promote the headers. So you write something like table, curly bracket, the row reference that you would like to extract, and then move that row reference right to the top and then promote that as a header. So that row can be promoted as a header. Okay. When is going to be the next session? The next session is going to be on the 24th. So for the 29% of the people who said that they are already working with the M language, I am going to talk about a practical case where I'll go all in on the M language and share some cool applications of the M language and solve a practical problem with you. So in case you're interested and you'd like to go far beyond what we have learned today, please do show up on the 24th as well. Okay, what I'd like to say is that once again, there was a secret word on the screen. You can actually go back in the live stream and take a look at the secret word. In case you do find that, please use that as the discount code to get Goodly Insider. I think we just have 2 or 3 seats available for that. And as soon as they fill up, probably tonight, and that discount code is done. So no more discount codes on Goodly Insider. 50% off is what you get. The second thing is that If you haven't registered yet, you haven't provided your email ID, and you just stumbled on the live stream, please do provide your email ID. In this live stream, by the end of it, you might get a chance to win a free digital copy of my book. That's one. Or in the every single chapter has got exercises in the end, like for you to practice. When I was writing the book, it didn't occur to me that I had to explain the solutions of those exercises as well. I mean, I have the solutions, I've done a lot of work to explain what is going on, but I just gave you the question and I gave you the answer of that question. Now, somebody in Goodly Insider, which happens to be our Power BI community, paid Power BI community, somebody was asking that, hey, can you explain your solution that you wrote it in the book? And I said, oh my God, I have to create videos on the exercises as well. So I went ahead and I created about 29, 30 videos. I think it's about 2 odd hours. You can just get all of that. So there are a couple of offers that we are running tonight up until the 24th. They're going to end. If you are any bit interested in learning from me in a more structured way, far beyond what I have talked about in the masterclass today, and you would like to engage with the community and you would like to learn, through our courses and through the book and the supplementary videos that you get along, please do avail the offers. We are giving a very heavy discount, and the discount actually ends on the 24th. There's going to be a link in the chat here. Please go and avail the thing. It's a really, really good offer. We are giving away the books, a complimentary video and whatnot. In case you would like to go a step beyond and also enroll in the course, you can also do that. There is some very attractive prices on the courses as well. Cool. Okay, let's just take a look at more questions. Okay, insightful session. How much M code learning is required to handle industrial cases? I don't know what that means. What do you mean by an industrial case? But you don't really expect me to answer like 70% of the M code is required to solve a case. Like a case is a case, and it might be the most difficult case, but I really have no idea that what is the case that you're dealing with and how much M is it required. So. But if you found any of the tricks that we have done helpful to even approach your cases, then I believe with reasonable amount of M learning, you should be able to solve problems. Okay. Here's an interesting question. Ramon asks, can you in a function put some variable that you can write a parameter with? Very interesting. I think you can. I think you can, because in Power Query, you have the option to create a new parameter. So you can make a new parameter, obviously, and then you can reference that parameter within your function. So ideally you can. I might have done that as well, but I haven't paid attention to that. If that is not possible, there is no reason that I believe it's not possible. So. Okay, yeah, very good question. I would like to know when to apply the final data types, Marcus asks. Generally speaking, I'll actually share something. It's such a good question, such a good question. Please, everybody, it actually needs me to share my screen once again. All right. So everybody, please take a look at my screen. I'm working in this query, and you can see that the query has not got any data types at the moment. Now, when I actually go ahead and click on the customer right here and say that, hey, the customer is going to be a text here, I click on the text and the customer actually becomes a text value. Then what I have done is I have enforced Power Query to literally convert every single value into a text value. If you happen, if you happen to have anything which is not a text, technically everything can be converted to a text. Let's just maybe change the example. So if I just maybe go to the unit price, and if I say this is going to be, let's say, a whole number, I'm converting this column into an integer. And if anything happens to be in this column which is not an integer, perhaps you have the value a, or you have a dash or something or the other which cannot be converted into an integer, it is going to give you an error, right? So this is literally like enforcing the types in the middle of the query. Power Query tends to do that. You can also turn that off. I'll show you how can you turn that off. So go over to the file, then you can go over to options and settings, and then Power Query options. And then in here, where is that? Background data type here. So if you take a look at this particular option, you have the type detection here. And you can see that if you actually click right here, never detect column types and headers for unstructured sources, this is never going to apply the change type that it keeps on applying over and over and over again. Note that the change type that you apply is enforcing the type to be applied on that particular column, at least on the visible rows of data. However, there is also another type which is ascribing a type. You're not applying it, you're just ascribing it. Let me show that to you. So if I go ahead and I make a new column, so I say that, hey, I'm just making a new unit price, new unit price. And if I just write the new here, and if I just maybe take the unit price and add 1 to that, I can click on OK, and I get the new unit price. And you can see that the table.addColumns function used the new unit price, which is the name of the column, and here's the formula. But right in the end, I can also put in the comma and I can define the data type. So if I can just go in right here, I can put in a comma and I can define the type here. What is the column type? If I right now say that this is going to be a number, although it does apply the number type on this particular column, which is right, but if in case any of the values are not a number, it is not going to return an error at the moment, right? This is just ascribing a type. You're just setting the type. It's not executing that action. The action is going to be executed once the query starts to load the data inside of your Excel or of your Power BI. That's when it starts to do that. You want to take a look at what happens. So if I just go ahead and if I just maybe go ahead and say, I want to enter the value A, which is like a text, obviously, and the text, okay, hang on a second. So I just go here. Okay, I just delete it. I just do it once again. And I say, this is my new unit price. And I say, hey, this is going to be the value A, literally. Click on OK. And I am going to call this as a, type number. You're going to see that I don't have any errors. Enter, no errors. See that? No errors. Although A is clearly not a number, but it still kind of works. So this is going to return error for all the values of this particular column once the data is being loaded, but it doesn't execute that action at the moment. Now, the answer to your question is that I tend to apply the change type right at the end of the query when I'm decided with all the transformations that I want to do and I want to close the query now. That's when I will intentionally apply the types in the query. In the middle, when I'm working in the middle of the query, I'm going to use different functions to momentarily convert the type. So for example, hey, I will say something like, hey, why don't you pick, so I'll use a function like number.from and I'll pick up the unit price. So if unit price happens to be a text value, it will convert it into a number right here and then probably add 1 to that. So, that's something that we can end up doing. So this is what I end up doing, but I intentionally apply the change types right in the end of the query, right? That's what I tend to do. I hope that that helps. Good question. Thanks for asking. Okay, Mary says, I just want to say that your way of explaining makes Power Query an easy tool to learn. Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much, Mary. Thank you so much. I actually consider like myself to be quite dumb because if things are not clear to me in a certain way, then there is no way that I can explain it to others. So I think I'm just doing self-service here more than anything else. Okay, good comments. Guys. Quick thing. There are 3 discount codes available to you. I don't know if people have already availed that. There was a secret code that appeared on the screen. Use that code as the discount coupon or a discount code, and then you can have 50% off. That's one. Please put in your name and everything, and then we will announce 5 winners, and we can start that right away actually. So let's just announce the winners. So I have a sheet in here, and I can just copy all of that. So there are about nearly 1177 folks in here. So I'm just preparing that. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna now share my screen and let me know if you can see that. I've copied all the names. I'm just gonna paste all the names in here. Hopefully that comes in. All right, we have it. All of the nearly 1,200 people are here. Are you ready? Okay, so I'm gonna click to spin. Let's just see who the first winner is. Jason Anthony. Awesome. It's like a concatenation of your name and your email. So I hope I'm not butchering your name. Jason, congratulations. Somebody from my team is going to send you the book tonight. Many, many congratulations. Thanks for being on the webinar, of course. So I'm going to remove this name and we will have the next winner. There are 4 more people. So remove this name and I'll start to shuffle. Click again. Yeah. So click again. Kuzema, congratulations. Thank you for being here, and many, many congratulations for getting a digital copy of my book. Guys, if you happen to read my book, please give me a shout out on LinkedIn, tag me, whatever is your feedback. Please do give me, I've spent so much effort in writing that book, snipping pictures and taking pictures and just trying to make sure that if you're sitting on the couch and just reading my book, it should not be any different from just watching my video, although it's still a text. But you can read my book on a boat without having computer. You can read my book on a train without having the need to actually, if you actually work on the computer, you will get more value out of it, of course. But I wanted to write a book in such a way that if you're away from your PC and if you still want to read my book on a Kindle or on just a hard copy, you should be able to do that without compromising any of your understanding. Thanks for that. Okay, I'm going to remove you. Shuffle this once again, perhaps, and then spin it. Let's just see who the third winner is. Ooh, Andrea. Congratulations, Andrea. Congratulations. Thanks a lot for being here today, and congratulations. As I'm seeing, somebody from my team is going to email you the digital copy of the book tonight. So I'm going to remove you. We have 3 winners so far. These are the winners. And I'm going to shuffle once again. And we just do it once again. Okay, so the 4th one, let's just take a look. Ricardo. Congratulations, Ricardo. Congratulations. Can the other people who are winning the books there in the chat, can you just maybe say something or say, hey, I'm the winner or whatever, just create some noise in the chat. I'd really want to have people who are winning show up in the comments, right? That's equivalent of you standing, we are 200 300 people here, so that's equivalent of you standing in the hall or auditorium or whatever. Congratulations, people. Okay, I'm going to remove this, give it a last shuffle, and Spin. Bill. Congratulations, Bill. Congratulations. Congratulations. somebody says, somebody says, I am not the winner. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. Please show up the next time as well. Um, we will keep these people out who have been the winners this time. And if you happen to come the next time as well, I will be more than happy to take your name, put it in the Wheel of Fortune, and then we'll see who that winner is. Guys, please, the secret word is one thing. The winners are over. There are some very interesting deals that I have provided. You not only get the book, but you also get videos since you like watching videos. I've done my best to explain things in a way that you probably understand. And my objective is not to explain one function to you. That'll be lame. My objective is to explain the logic of thinking so that you can take that and apply it to your own scenario in whatever way possible. So there's some very interesting deals available on the course, on the book, supplementary videos, all included in that. If you're any bit interested, please go ahead. And this is going to be the best time for you to make a purchase. Cool. This was long. This was nearly 2 hours. Andrea says it was not my lucky day. That's fine. Take it easy. It's fine. Take it easy. If you would want, you can just go make the purchase, but it's all right. Show up the next time. I hope you like the webinar anyways. So if you got any value from that, congratulations to the winners, of course. Yes. Manjunath says, thank you for everything. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. I'm going to show up the next time on the 24th. The deal is available up only on up until the 24th of this month. So make sure that you complete your purchase. And I'm going to see you once again on the 24th. If you have any ideas for content creation or anything that I should be creating these days, please do let me know. There's obviously going to be a lot of AI content, a lot of structured content available that I'm going to be shooting up in the next 1 or 2 months. So be tuned in for that as well. Okay, cool. It's night, 10:30. I would like to go and sleep, but thanks a lot for attending the webinar. And